Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Sarah, and good morning, Tristan. And is Angela there too?
Yeah, this is me, Keith. How are you?
Right. Good, thank you.
Our condolences to you. I know just how difficult a time this is for you and the band. Do you remember the first time you met Judith?
Yes, I remember it really clearly because it was on a Monday night in December. I believe it was December the 3rd, and in 1962, and she had been talked into coming to the Treble Clef Coffee Lounge where Bruce and Athol and I were performing every Monday night, and Bruce had picked her up at her house in Baldwin, and Athol and I were already at the Treble Clef, and she walked in, and Athol said, "Keith, this is Judith. Judith, this is Keith." And she sat down, and we started singing. It was as brief and glorious as that, and it didn't stop for 60 years.
Wow. Judith is being described as a national treasure and having the voice of an angel. But what was it about her voice that was just so unique, do you think?
Well, it was the purity of her voice. It was certainly a unique voice, and she had the ability to sing tenderly. She had the ability to sing loud. You know, Athol and Bruce and I are pretty loud singers, and for her to be able to match that volume was really quite a challenge. But she did it magnificently, and so that covered all the bases, and tremendously powerful voice when it needed to be, and a wonderfully tender voice when it needed to be.
Keith, I know you had one final conversation with Judith just before she passed on Friday. I can't imagine how emotional that must have been. Can you share with us a little of what you said?
Yes, indeed. It was emotional, as you say, one of the most emotional conversations I've ever had. But we told each other that we loved each other, and we reminisced over happy times that we've had over the 60 years. And it was one of those conversations where the words meant everything. Absolutely meant everything to cover the time that we had spent together. But that was the happiest but emotional phone call that I've had, because I was able to speak with her just as it turned out only a matter of a couple of hours before she died.
Wow. Keith, this year marks 60 years since the Seekers first performed together. Will you and the band be celebrating and remembering Judith in any special way?
Well, we've already started having our private wakes, as it turns out, because I think we all realise that there's huge sadness. People feel incredible sadness about Judith passing. But from now on, I think it's time to celebrate her gift to the music world, and her gift to the general world, and be happy and celebrate her life and what she brought to the world, and that'll never be forgotten. We're taking it one step at a time. We can't really say anything about that, but I doubt it. I think we'll just remember that glorious voice and not intrude into that aspect of her gift to the world. As I say, it's early days, so we'll wait and see how things transpire over the next little while.
Those closest to Judith Durham, lead singer of The Seekers, have come out to share memories of her life. Keith, one of the founding members of The Seekers, spent much of the 60s making music and touring with Durham as the front woman of the band. The musicians shared many surreal moments, like knocking the Beatles off the #1 spot in the UK charts and performing to screaming crowds. By reflecting on Durham's life after her death, aged 79, Keith most remembers her advocacy work. After Durham's husband, Ron Edgeworth, died from motor neuron disease in 1994, she worked tirelessly to raise money and awareness to fight the degenerative disease. It made quite a difference to the awareness of that issue, and to see her unfailingly help to raise funds, that was quite remarkable in her generosity of spirit, Keith told ABC Radio Melbourne. He said their strong connections helped them deal with the pressures of fame as the band became increasingly successful throughout the 1960s. He felt that we were sharing the whole ride together, he said. During the 4 years they recorded, their songs often reached #1 on the UK charts, and they managed to crack the US market with Georgy Girl. Rest in power, Queen.
Us. But tonight, as we celebrate all her gifts to all of us and an audience around the world, in that previous conversation with her, I explained that we had also unearthed a song of Bruce's from years ago that we'd not finished as a group track, and we should try and complete it for the 60th, just a couple of months ago, I think, was it not? This little gem had come out of a filing cabinet. We're good at finding hidden treasures, these things for us. Wonderful song, and she'd just done it solo. She'd done the lead, one of Bruce's songs, and she loved it. And she wanted to know all the details then, when's it going to come out, as we celebrate Judith's magnificent gifts to us all. May it carry her safely on the rest of her journey to a welcome and a reward for all she's cared for and inspired throughout her life. Here's our last song together, Carry Me.
So now the bird has flown.
Who would win that argument?
Thank you. This is such a privilege. And this is such a familiar stage for us. It's been like a second home right through our reunion years, way back to '93. But sadly and poignantly, it's the last time we'll share it all together, but what a way to share it. Thank you for being here tonight. As I said, this is such a privilege for all of us. Celebrating Judith's life, however, it gives us such a wonderful opportunity in such an appropriate venue to recall so many standing ovations and the incredible gift we were given with our music, a lifetime of friendship and amazing moments, especially right here in our hometown. No more so, amazing moments galore. No more so than when she was recovering from that cerebral hemorrhage, and we had to work out whether we can get back and finish the tour here and then go to the United Kingdom and finish over in New Zealand. We decided that we would get right into it when the doctors said she was okay, to give it a go, see how she felt. We set up a very serious day of rehearsal, and we booked into a motel not far from my place. We had the whole crew up there, and we got ready for a very serious day. We had to do that to make sure that we could continue on. So we set up, and we just started. We just started the basic sound check, getting through a couple of songs. So we got through the first song. I'm sure the boys will remember this. And slipping into the second song of just the rehearsal, and I'm looking across at her and playing, and she looked across at me with this huge grin on her face. She said to me, "This is what we do, isn't it?" Certainly was. And what a joy we had from then on, as she conquered all those problems, and off we went overseas and finished the 50th reunions and the farewells. And recently, as we were chatting on the phone over plans for our 60th in December, we accepted that no concerts would be possible, but as we'd celebrated our 50th with a party here at Hamer Hall, we should try and do the same for our 60th. Well, we hope to still have that party, and she'll be here with us. But tonight, as we celebrate all her gifts to all of us and an audience around the world, in that previous conversation with her, I explained that we had also unearthed a song of Bruce's from years ago that we'd not finished as a group track, and we should try and complete it for the 60th, just a couple of months ago.
The Seekers have paid a tribute to their late lead singer, Judith Durham, with the release of a new song, Carry Me, making it a final musical statement from the band. Bruce Woodley wrote Carry Me 23 years ago, and Judith's early vocal has been in the Seekers' vault up until recently. Bruce, Athol, and Keith took the song to producer Michael Cristiano, who completed the recording, debuted at the Judith Memorial. Athol Guy said at the memorial, "This song is now our collective gift to share with you tonight as we celebrate Judith's magnificent gifts to us all." Judith Durham passed away on 5th August 2022 at age 79. Her family accepted the offer of a state memorial from Premier Dan Andrews. The memorial, held at 7 p.m. on 6 September 2022, was hosted by Brian and Julie Zemiro. Durham's nephew, Tony Sheehan, said he spoke on behalf of the family. He said Durham's mother had a wish that her daughters would not be torn deaf. She got her wish, he said, to laughter from the audience. He said Durham was always destined to be a musician, having told her sisters during childhood that one day she would sing on all the stages of the world. He also told a story of Durham's early foray into live music. In her teens, Judith was kind of naive, he said. He also told a story of how Judith entered into the music scene. Week after week, the band leader, where Judith had requested to first sing from, told her to come back next week. He said when they eventually let her join in, they were blown away. The band leader asked her name, and she said Judith Cook, the name she was born with. Mr. Sheehan said Durham was told, "Look, if you're going to be singing in public, you might want to think about changing your name." "Oh, really? I like Judith," he said. She replied. She later changed her name to Judith Durham, using the mother's maiden name. On a more serious note, Mr. Sheehan remembered his aunt as a deeply generous and optimistic person. The service featured a number of musical tributes, mainly hits from the Seekers. Durham's older sister, singer Beverly Sheehan, recalled their shared love of music ever since childhood. "We would sing together early in the morning, and my father would have to come in and say, 'That's enough. Your mother can't sleep,' she said." Durham's surviving Seekers bandmates Keith, Potger, Bruce Woodley, and Athol Guy spoke of the admiration for their lead singer. "It's a real surreal experience for us, standing on this Hammers Hall stage without Judith," said Potger. "We shared triumphs and adventures on this very platform. It was really an emotional service. Rest in power, Queen."
To talk about his fellow Seeker and cherished friend. Keith, welcome to Overnights.
Good morning, Rod, and good morning to your listeners.
Well, condolences from us. Really, how did you hear the news?
I was aware that Judith had been taken to a hospital the day before, and then yesterday morning I was able to get some more detail about her condition. I live in New South Wales, so I was geographically separated from the dear girl, but I rang Judith's sister Beverly Sheehan, and Bev was able to take her phone to Judith, and so Judith and I had a wonderful chat, and it turned out to be just a couple of hours before she died. I told Judith that I was preparing to come down to Melbourne to be in her vicinity, because I realised the severity of what she was having to deal with. And anyway, that wasn't to be, because she died at 7 o'clock yesterday, so last evening, yeah.
Are you able to share with us anything that she said to you?
Oh, well, we said we loved each other, and how happy we had been as comrades in the group, and it was just a gorgeous conversation. And she was under some stress because of her condition. I mean, her condition is a bronchial one, and so consequently, speaking was a challenge for her at that stage. So it was generally an extraordinarily emotional conversation for me, and luckily, in the same fashion, Bruce Woodley and Athol Guy were able to speak to Judith as well. So we all had our conversations with her, and it was the best way I can describe it, Rod, is that it was like a eulogy while the person was still alive, and that's something I will always treasure.
You were like her big brothers, weren't you, during that whole time?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and I always thought of her as my little sister. So we had a very special bond. It was the classic family bond that we shared, and most families, we have our differences from time to time, but nevertheless, it was a fantastic journey, and somehow I just can't get the feeling that the journey has ended. Even though Judith has died, I just feel as though she is so close to me, and I'm sure close to Bruce and Athol as well, that our road still will carry on. We'll just keep going, because that's what we meant to each other.
Take us back to the first time you heard her voice, and did you think, wow, this is the voice for us?
Well, certainly the first time I was aware of Judith was when she sat in with us at the Treble Clef in South Yarra, and that was in December 1962. So it is actually 60 years now since we sang as a group together. I was just absolutely knocked out with her voice, and also the way that she, well, let's say fitted in is probably the wrong word, but we sort of absorbed each other, I suppose, in the sense that it just felt comfortable that we were singing together. And even though Athol, Bruce, and I had been the Seekers before, we had a fourth member, Ken Ray, who was in the group, and he left the group, and then Judith joined us. It just felt like it was a wonderful combination, and it was so relaxed, and I guess the thing was it had to be relaxed because this was pretty much a hobby for us at that stage, because we all had day jobs, so there was certainly nothing.
As we are still remembering the Australian icon Judith Durham, actually every Australian of a certain age, to be honest, knows all the words to the Seekers songs. Actually, any gathering overseas will lead to the Carnival is over, Morningtown Raid, and probably Georgy Girl, and so many other songs of the Seekers. Perhaps Judith Durham's other works included those Life in Music and albums from around 1963 to 2012. Isn't as instantly well known, but she performed all her life, always with her hair in the same dark, long bob, straight cut across the fringe. Judith Mavis Durham Coke was born in around 1943, and she was a daughter of William Coke, a navigator and a World War II pathfinder, and his wife Hazel Durham. She went to a foreign school and Robert, where she was a contemporary of an actor, Robin Nevin, before moving back to the Melbourne and attending a girls' school. Looking further through her biography, she attended and was intended to be a pianist and took an associate in music and the Australia degree in classical piano at the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music, studying under the concert pianist Professor Ronald Farren Price, a legend, of course, in the music industry. So Durham played the piano professionally while she was still a young lady, and actually starting at a ballet school. Then later, when she was 18, her singing career started when she actually asked if she could sing with a jazz band, and she realized she could sing with an audience that really was so enthusiastic and actually wanted in the way of the blues, gospel, the jazz standards of the 1920s and 30s. So that was the audience Judith first started singing in, and they really appreciated her art. In around 1963, looking further through her journey in the music industry, she joined Frank Trainor's Jazz Preachers and took her mother's maiden name, Durham, for her stage name. So this is how her name came into existence, Durham, because so many people were asking how did she become Durham when originally she wasn't Durham. So Judith, she also recorded her first extended program, Judith Durham, with Frank Trainor's Jazz Preachers, which included the songs Just a Closer Walk with a V, Moon You Mooners, Papa Di Dada, Jelly Bean Blues, and so many other songs. Then one day at around that time, Durham started a new job as a secretary with an advertising agency, as you've heard Keith lamenting and explaining in the so many videos I've been giving you. And on the first day, she met an account executive, by that time a one and only legend, Athol Guy, who by night was in a folk trio called The Seekers. Along with Guy were another gentleman, like you've heard him in the podcast I've given you in this video, Keith, the legend, and actually another advertising man, Bruce Woodley. Soon, Durham was a regular in their Monday night performances at a popular coffee lounge. Later, Potger in those days, Potger during those days, he was a producer on radio and he was still in the music part-time, so he wasn't doing it full-time. And so in his lunch hour, he made a demo tape of the group, which became the first album of the popular group we all love, we all cherish in this moment in time, The Seekers. Although Potger was not supposed to have a second job, so he didn't appear on the record's cover, and Durham also recorded 2 more songs with the Jazz Preachers, Muddy Water, and Trombone Frankie, a version of Bessie Smith's Trombone Chill. So later in around 1964, the group signed on to perform in London, and they had planned to come home after 10 weeks in Europe, but they got so many bookings and they had to stay on. So the rest is history. In this moment in time, we are sending our prayers to the family, friends, and everyone who really loved Judith Durham. R.I.P. the Queen, Judith.